What's good, people? It's Daryl from the Boxing Lowdown here, man. And this is episode number 60 of the Boxing Lowdown podcast. And you know what time it is? It's that time of the week. We're joined by Mr. Controversial, my father, the host, the main man, Laurie from AFTV in the building. What's going on, Laurie?
It's just doing a Ryan Garcia impression. And before you say it, Ryan Garcia, a lot of people might not know who that is. He was a boxer many years ago. He had a fight, and then I think he just went missing. I don't know. But if anyone out there's seen him, maybe they should contact us and let us know. You know what I mean?
Saw him last week, actually. He's been tweeting quite a lot recently.
All right. I thought he was depressed and going through problems. So, all of a sudden, George Kambosos wins a title and he comes out the woodwork. Suddenly he's better again, it would appear. Not that I'm trying to mess with people's mental health. It's a serious thing, but, you know, with Ryan Garcia, there's always something, isn't it? So.
Seems so, man. Looks like you're bringing the heat straight away, man. I ain't even done the intro or nothing yet, man. You're jumping in it. Jumping in the fire, man. But listen, big up to everybody, first of all. Let me shout out the people in the comments. Those of you that are joining us, you know what to do. Hit that like button on the way in. Share the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click the bell icon for any notifications for any video that I post up. Now, let's get straight to it, man. Stefan in the building, my bro. He's put, here we go. Harvey has put here, yo, what's good? Francisco in the building, our good friend. He's put here, break it down, bros. Conrad has said here, I thought it was the Eubank. I first thought it was the Eubank ring entrance. And Harvey has said here, depressed. He was calling me out on Twitter. Yeah, he had a little spat with Harvey here on Twitter, Ryan Garcia.
Really?
Yeah, so he's been Twitter fingers at the moment. I've seen that. But, you know.
These days, it seems that fighters, they train their Twitter fingers almost as much as they train their left hooks and right hands in the gym. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem to be that much difference, man. You know what I mean? And I think Ryan Garcia is definitely one of those who come into that category. Spends more time, way more time on Twitter than he ever does in the gym. Can you imagine if he showed that same kind of dedication to his craft? What a good fighter he would be. That's again if he's ever going to fight again. I mean, you know what I mean?
Oh, Nathan said it right here, man. King Wright is the Twitter king. Stefan says here, Ryan Garcia called himself a pretty girl on Twitter as well. Someone needs to tell him to log off. Did he really say that? I just don't know, man.
Probably, what was he messaging Chris Mannix? Chris Mannix appears to have a real crush on that guy. So, you know what I mean? Who knows what's going on?
Yeah, I mean,
as Amir Khan once said, listen, if you're gay, just come out and say it.
Well, I just don't know about the guy, man. He's like I said before, he's just not my cup of tea at all. Ryan Garcia, man, got ability, got potential, but he's just not using it.
I think you're in the wrong demographic, Daryl. Apparently, his fan base, and this is quite weird when I saw. I think his fan base are like around 14 to 16, or they're like 40-year-old plus men. So I don't think you're in his demographic at all in terms of fans. You know what I mean?
No, I don't think so.
And as I always say with people, you know, it's all right having these legions of fans on Twitter, but are they the type of fans that are going to buy tickets to watch you fight or buy pay-per-views? Do they even like boxing, Ryan Garcia fans?
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, it's like we've just jumped way off topic. We ain't even got into what we were supposed to yet. But look, with him, it's like he's got the ability. We've seen it. He defeated Luke Campbell. He took himself off the canvas, showed a lot of guts in that fight, and went back to win it by stoppage. Great, very good win for me. But since then, I mean, like, what's happened? Called out Gervonta Davis, saying you're going to do this to him, do that to him. Oh, you better sign the contract, blah, blah, blah. Then you pulled out of that fight. Then you had another fight. You pulled out of that fight. Now we're just like, you've got no fight scheduled. Even Canelo Alvarez has come out and said that you're not dedicated enough. And he's just on Twitter all the time now. That's all I see from him.
Well, he was supposed to be one of these four kings that we were, you know what I mean?
Oh, Jesus.
We've already lost one of them. And he looks like he's going down a completely separate route. At least T.O. got in the ring. This guy's not even going to get in the ring. He's just going to be around his PC and his phone. You know what I mean? Those are his sparring partners at the moment. His phone and his PC. You know what I mean? The guy is a clown, man. You know what I mean? Which, like you said, is a shame because he's very, very talented. And I remember telling a story on your show
I remember
some months ago now about a friend of mine who he's like a low-level pro boxer, and he goes and fights around the world. I don't know how he manages to pull this off, but yeah, he doesn't fight in the UK or in America, but he fights in these far-flung countries. He's a bit of a traveler, so he likes to go from gym to gym. And I remember him telling me a couple of years ago now, this story, that he was in a gym in LA, and Ryan Garcia was there, and he said he saw him work and how good he was. And he said, Laurie, the guy he don't look like your typical, macho fighter, but trust me, he can fight. You know what I mean? I've seen him lay down a couple of guys in the gym, you know what I mean? And he was quite impressive. And that was years ago. And sadly, that potential has not been fulfilled, is it?
Yeah.
It's been sacrificed to the Twitter keyboard. You know what I mean?
Still got time, I suppose. Nathan here says Jojo Diaz versus Isak Cruz would be a damn solid fight, actually. Yeah, we'll get onto the rest of the lightweight division later on in the show. Stefan says here, his exact tweet was this: never offered me anything. Typical Mayweather games. I know you like to beat on pretty girls, but this one is going to beat your ass back. That was Ryan Garcia talking about Gervonta Davis. That just doesn't make no sense to me, man. It's just very weird, that is. Glad I didn't see that tweet, man, for real.
I think he's calling out Floyd for domestic abuse.
Calling out Gervonta. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Ryan Garcia probably just best ignored, isn't he?
Yeah.
To be honest with you. Because let's be honest, he's got no real interest in fighting. I mean, even Canelo's pep talk doesn't seem to have done much good. So, yeah, we should just leave him alone, man. Let him send his tweets out and just ignore him, and hopefully he'll go away. Because I don't think he's really interested in fighting. No. You know what I mean? Sometimes in life, doesn't matter what vocation, you'll have somebody who's extremely talented, but they just, for whatever reason, they just don't want to pursue it, whether they don't really believe in themselves, whether they don't really like the vocation that they're in, whether they'd rather be doing something else. He clearly would rather be doing other things. So although he's very physically gifted and talented, he clearly doesn't want to put the work in as far as being a professional fighter. And if you're not dedicated in this sport, it's the wrong sport to be in, man, for so many reasons.
Mohammed says here, Ryan Garcia doesn't beat any of the top 5. And Asher said here, Tank hasn't got any real interest in fighting anyone serious either.
Well, if you say that to Leonard Ellaby, you run the risk of him calling you out. Because Ellaby wants that smoke with Eddie Hearn, man. You know what I mean? What do you reckon on that fight? Ellaby versus Eddie Hearn.
I'm not even lying to you. Before we jumped on the show today, got a text from my brother, and he was just telling me, he said to me, actually, I'll read out exactly what he said, because he literally texted me about 5 minutes before the show. And he said, Leonard Ellaby is the most annoying guy in the sport. Kills Tunde, proper F-boy. If Mayweather sat on the floor and told him to pick it up, he would. That was literally what he told me before we jumped on today about Leonard Ellaby.
Yeah, I could see why he's not everyone's. He's definitely not my cup of tea, man. And as I said on your show a couple of weeks ago, is that boxing is full of indifferent characters. Maybe that's what makes it such an intriguing sport, is that the people in it and the way things play out. But there are certain people in the sport, man, that they kind of go beyond. They're just irritating, nauseating, and you think, come on, man.
Yeah.
I think Ellaby, man, is one of those guys that listen, man, he's not as bad as someone like Teofimo's dad, but he's certainly, I wouldn't like to share a drink with him, put it that way.
Yeah, he's up there in terms of annoying people and annoying characters in the game. But listen, let's get on to some topics for today. We'll start off with the top one that I had, and that was to do with Tyson Fury and Dillian White. Now, there was news from the WBC this week, came out a couple of days ago, that Tyson Fury has been now ordered to face Dillian White. They've got 30 days to negotiate a deal. Otherwise, it will then go to purse bids. So the two teams are in active negotiations now, Tyson Fury and Dillian White. It's looking like that fight will happen now, end of February, early March. Now, I was originally surprised by this because I wasn't expecting a tweet from the WBC. The last news that we got from them was that until the arbitration was sorted out, then they'd be able to, push forward with this mandatory. So the question is that has this been sorted out behind closed doors? And, it's good news for Dillian White either way, but it's looking more now that undisputed fight with Usyk won't happen. It looks like that he will now fight AJ in a rematch. You know, Fury may not have been able to negotiate with AJ a step aside deal. So it's looking like Fury and White end of February, March, and Usyk and AJ probably April, spring sometime.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. You know, I mean, listen, I'm always one of these guys. I'm going to push for undisputed or unified. You know, I mean, I like that. However, Dillian has been waiting, it seems, forever. He's fought his way into contention. He's beaten pretty much everyone that put him before him. And even when he did lose, he avenged it in some style. So, listen, man, I'd love to see Dillian get a shot. And the fight with Fury is an intriguing fight. I mean, can you imagine the press conferences for a start for that fight? It's going to be...
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, look, I would welcome to see that fight. And I think that Dillian will be competitive. Do I think he beats Fury? Probably not. Although it is heavyweight boxing, you never know what can happen. Dillian, he's always gone on the record as being very confident that he could beat Fury. He's let it be known that he dropped Fury more than once in sparring. And before everybody out there checks me on that, yes, I know sparring is sparring and fighting is fighting. However, it is possible for people to gain confidence from sparring with one another. So, yeah, man, Dillian's got a chance. I mean, listen, Tyson Fury, he's had those dominating wins against Wilder, but it wasn't that long ago, man. He struggled against the guy from Sweden, whose name escapes me at the moment.
Otto Wallin.
Otto Wallin, yeah. And he hasn't always looked that impressive when he's not been 100% motivated. You like to think that you're going to be motivated for this fight because it's a domestic showdown. Him and Dillian don't like each other, it would appear. I don't think Dillian likes anyone in boxing, to be honest. But yeah, so it would be a great fight while it lasts. I think Dillian will be coming in there to win. I can see his overhand rights and his big left hooks causing Tyson Fury some problem. I would expect Fury to use his greater length and size and all that to maneuver himself to a points win, or maybe even a late stoppage, because we know that Dillian does gas out late in fights. But whilst he's active, whilst he's there, I think he's a threat.
Harvey says here, I ain't getting my hopes up. So he's not certain that the fight will happen. You never know with Fury, do you? He can be quite contradictory. 1 minute he's up for it, next minute he wants to retire. Tomorrow, you can never really read the guy. But I'm hoping that it does happen. Like that's the fight that we want to see. We want to see.
It would appear that the Furies have this genetic condition. I think it's called FURY-WHYTE, where their pull-out game is strong. I mean, we've seen the other Fury last week. He's pulled out of the fight with Jake Paul. I mean, Tyson Fury's been known to pull out a fight. So as long as he can get past his FURY-WHYTE, then yeah, hopefully we got a fight.
Mohammed says here, I see Fury winning by UD, but it will be a great build-up and a great fight. Yeah, if I was to make a prediction on the fight now, if it was to happen, I would have Fury winning that, probably by UD as well. But it depends really, because, you know, Fury, first of all, I would say that it's nice to see him fight someone else other than Deontay Wilder. There are other, you know, solid contenders in that division, Dillian White being one of them. And it'll be interesting to see like the difference in styles, how he adapts to somebody like Dillian White, you know, who's going to be working on the inside. I think the best thing for him to do will be work the body. But will Tyson, how will he approach it? Because we've seen he can fight on the back foot, on the boxing game, like fight like that, or he can come forward, which has been more aggressive recently. I think against Dillian White, he'd have to revert back to boxing on the back foot, really. If he fights like he did against Wilder in the third fight, it, you know, it gives White more of a chance for me. And that's pretty much what Ash is saying right here.
And I also
he's
think
saying exactly the same thing, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, listen, I also think that Dillian's got a good chance, because I think Tyson Fury's like stick and moving days are pretty much over. That's what he said, didn't he? He's gone on record as saying that from now on, he's going to bring it to guys and he's looking for the knockout. Could it be that because he's fairly advanced in his career, the legs are not quite there anymore? Often in fighters, the legs are the first to go. When I say legs are the first to go, I don't mean that he has no legs. But what you tend to find with a lot of fighters earlier in their careers, they will utilize movement a lot. But as the years go past, you know what I mean, the legs are not quite there. And then they resort to more holding their feet. So they kind of have to, whether they like it or not, plant their feet a bit more. And that's when they actually become heavier punchers, because they're planting their feet and they're looking to engage a lot more than before. So, you know, could be an exciting fight, this one, Because we do know, listen, Dillian is going to bring it. He only knows one way to fight. He's going to come forward. Yeah, he does have a good jab, Dillian himself. He's got long arms. He's going to look to get inside with his jab and land the right hand, hooks. He's got big overhand right that Fury will need to be careful of. And he's rough and tough in there, you know what I mean? And he's game, man. He's got lots of heart. He will definitely bring it because, as we know with Dillian, he will talk up the fight beforehand, you know what I mean? So he will lay it on the line, I'm sure, as will Tyson Fury. He's proven himself to be a dog in there, you know what I mean? He's not going to go there and give it up. So I think we'll have a great domestic showdown.
Yeah. Big up Mohammed for his comment here. Conrad has said as well, a question. Do you think that Fury can physically bully Dillian Whyte? Can he bully him?
That's a very interesting question because he was able to do so with Deontay, but Deontay is a different body type, different type of fighter. Dillian is naturally likes to come inside, naturally likes to engage, whereas with Deontay, it was about giving himself room to land the right hand. And Fury was quite clever in that when he fought him the second and third times, he got closer to Wilder, and his attempt was to push him back. So we'll see if he deploys the same tactics with Dillian. What I think will happen is he will probably start off boxing Dillian, get a little look at him, process the information, and then I think rounds 4 onwards, he'll probably try and take it to Dillian. So we'll see how that goes.
Bit like the Chisora rematch.
Yes, yes.
Stefan says here, Fury's build-ups are overrated. It used to be good back in the Vlad, possible Hay fight days, but all he does now is call his opponent Dosses. He's spot on, man. Spot on there. Asher said here, Fury can't be a mover anymore. His 2-year binge has generally made him fat, which he can't reverse. Look at the Vlad fight. He was super streamlined. Yeah, he's got a point there. What do you reckon, Laurie?
Well, I agree with most of that. I don't think I've ever seen Tyson Fury super streamlined, though. You know what I mean? He's always had a bit of a girth on him. I think that's just his body type, though. But you know what? I mean, listen, you've heard me say on this show many times that I'm not a big fan of Tyson Fury. Some of the stuff he pulls outside the ring. I think he can be a bit disreputable at times, and I'm not going to go there. However, he does have my respect, and I would say at the moment, he's the #1 heavyweight. I don't think too many people can argue with that. I know Usyk had that great win against Joshua, but I still think there may be more to play out in that Joshua fight because, let's be honest, man, before the Joshua fight, Usyk did not look that good as a heavyweight. And there's still some suggestion that as good as Usyk looked, Joshua kind of handed that fight on a plate to him by adopting the wrong tactics. So I'd love to see how that second fight is going to go. So until then, you'd have to say that Fury, he's unbeaten. I know Usyk's unbeaten as well, but Fury's been there a lot longer. He's done it. As a heavyweight, he's got a better resume than Usyk. He's the #1 guy right now.
I agree.
So you have to respect him, man. Even like a guy like me, who's, said some pretty critical things about him in the past. You have to acknowledge that he's the #1. Now, as people say, his last 2 or 3 fights have been against Deontay Wilder. So we need another opponent now for him to show just exactly how good he is. And I think Dillian is the perfect foil.
Yep.
Because Dillian will go in there and Dillian will try to beat him. Dillian will go in there trying to knock him out. That is how Dillian fights every time.
Marley thinks that White is going to get knocked out. Mohammed says here, work the body, and then that will slow Fury down, and then look for that KO. DS here, my brother, he's put here, he's emphasized the if. He's put, if this fight happens, I reckon it'll be closer than people think. White's work to the body is underrated, and I've also thought going to the body was the way to beat Fury. Marley said here, it's going to be a great fight. I'm happy that White has got his shot finally. I just feel that Fury is a special fighter. Now, recently, Bob Arum was asked about a potential, they do fantasy matchups. He was asked who did he think would win out of Fury and Muhammad Ali. And Bob Arum went for Fury, due to his size and, just his dimensions and comparing that to Ali. Do you think Bob Arum was being genuine there? Or do you think he was just, because he promotes Fury right now, he's just doing what he does and, saying what he's saying? Or do you think that he really does believe that?
What he said was absolute cap, and he knows it. He's just doing that to sell Fury. He knows not to go there, but he did go there because he's trying to get Fury's name out there and try and sell him as a, you know what I mean? Come on, man. You know what I mean? There's levels, you know what I mean? Fury, by modern standards, is a very good heavyweight. But come on now. I don't care about the size, man. You know what I mean? Ali stands alone. You shouldn't even be mentioned in that.
Yeah, I just didn't like that at all, man. It's
Didn't
Bob
he do
Arum's
a
birthday today, by
with
the way.
Lomachenko? He started saying that Lomachenko was the best fighter he'd ever seen. He did it with Pacquiao. He compared Pacquiao to Ali. He compared Loma to Ali, and now he's doing the same with Fury. So that tells you everything, doesn't it?
Bob Arum's birthday today, man. He turns 90 years old today. It was either today or yesterday. So, you know, shout out to Bob Arum, man. 90 years
I
old.
mean, listen, man, a lot of people have got a lot of things to say about Bob, and they're not always complimentary. But, you know what I mean? 90 years old, for number one, is an achievement. I mean, my dad lived to 93. So to get to 90 years old in these times is a great achievement. And he's still got most of his faculties around. Well, I think so. That last statement, mate. But no, I mean, on a serious note, yeah, he's still at the top of the promoting game, isn't he? Let's be honest. So that's a remarkable achievement, really. I mean, obviously he's got people in the background helping him, but for him to be the figurehead of top-ranked promotions, still giving interviews, still traveling up and down America and across the world, putting on big fights and stuff like that, credit to him.
Yeah. Big up to Marley in the comment here. He's put, I like to class modern heavyweights as super heavyweights, to be honest. You can't compare them. Yeah, it's all pure fantasy. I just think that Bob Arum was just, you know, just doing what a promoter does. Do you know what I mean? Even though he did promote Muhammad Ali as well. So, hey. Listen, Laurie, let's talk about last weekend, man, because we've got quite a few fights to get through. The last thing I'll say about Fury-White is that I hope it does happen. Looking forward to seeing how that turns out. I'm not 100% certain that it will. I do have my doubts when it comes to, you know, them trying to negotiate a deal and everything. We've seen what they've said out in the open about purse splits and all that, but let's hope that they find a resolution and get that fight done. But anyway, last weekend, I want to start with Anthony Yarde and Lyndon Arthur. Now, listen, I was really looking forward to this. So was you. So was everybody. Anthony Yarde, 4th round stoppage, you know, really disposed of Lyndon Arthur. What was your thoughts? Was you pleased with Anthony Yarde in terms of how great he was, or was you a bit disappointed in Lyndon Arthur, or a bit of both?
Well, before we go there, we should shout out Shane, man. I mean, he was on the show last week, and he got it spot on. And I remember he said that as soon as Yarde lets his hands go, it'll be over. He predicted round 6, and then he went on to say it could even be earlier than that. And I remember me and you, I know it's especially you, you was like, what? And we were kind of laughing at him. And then no sooner had the fight done, who's on the phone? Shane. I told you. Yeah, so shout out to Shane. He got that absolutely spot on. I didn't see anyone else predicting that, by the way, outside of the immediate members of the Yarde camp. So that was if he's a betting man, he could have won a lot of money off of that. But in terms of the fight, man, yeah, it was an exhilarating performance by Anthony Yarde. He went in there, man, and he did everything he said he was going to do. Better, actually. And yeah, man, those body shots took the wind out of Lyndon's sails, bro. And he had no answer. I have to say I was a little bit disappointed in Lyndon because I did expect a bit more from him. But then when you get hit with big punches and you get hit early, man, it could throw the game plan out the window. What's that famous saying about everyone's got a game plan until they get hit? That was a classic fight that encapsulates that saying, you know what I mean? As soon as he got hit, man, it was a different story. And the good thing that Yarde did is that when he caught Lyndon, he kept the pressure on it. And he varied the attack. He went to the body, went to the head, bullied him, pushed him up against the ropes. And it was all pretty much one-way traffic, although Lyndon did land a couple of jabs, and he did also land a couple of right hands.
I think he only had one good round.
Anthony ate those, man. You know what I mean? He was a man on a mission.
Second round. It was only the second round for me. And listen, there are some comments here on Lyndon Arthur. I guess we better be careful, man. We don't want Sonny Edwards coming for us. Do you know what I mean? But Asher said here, Lyndon Arthur got exposed. He has little in his arsenal except a jab. Stefan has said here, Arthur offered next to no resistance, which was really disappointing. But Yarde was much better. I have to say, I expected a bit more from Lyndon Arthur as well. Because, listen, Laurie, we all knew what Anthony Yarde was going to do. He was singing it before the fight. you know, singing "You Can't Stop the Rain," all of that. You know, we knew what was coming. We knew what Yard was going to do. I just thought Lyndon Arthur would, like Stefan is saying here, would put up a little bit more resistance, would probably try and just get out of the opening first few rounds, try and spoil him like he was doing in the second round. But like Yard said, man, he couldn't stop the rain. He couldn't stop it.
Couldn't stop the rain, man.
I thought it'd be a bit more. I mean, Lyndon Arthur did have good experience as an amateur. So he would have come. I know it's not the same, but I just thought that he would have got out of those early rounds and made it a bit more difficult, considering they knew what was coming. Do you know what I mean?
Listen, some people have expressed disappointment in Lyndon, and you know, I guess it's easy to do that. But if we focus on that too much, then you're detracting from the great performance that Yard put in.
Yeah.
And like I said, in boxing, if you're up against a big puncher, you see it many times. You see guys go in there, they're up against a big puncher, and they're very circumspect for the first couple of rounds. The reason being is you're trying to draw the guy's sting. You don't want to get caught with anything too soon before you've had a chance to warm up and really, you know what I mean, get your feet underneath you and stuff like that. Any good coach will tell you that. If you're fighting a big puncher, you've got to be very circumspect in the first round, couple of rounds, you know what I mean? Because you don't want to get caught early because your equilibrium can go, you can get knocked down. The whole game plan will go out the window. Lyndon got caught early and he got hurt. And it was one-way traffic after that. So, I don't know, man. I'm going to lean towards, let's give Anthony credit, man. You know what I mean? Because he went out there and he imposed himself upon Lyndon. I think that was one of the impressive things for me. The way he just imposed himself. I thought Lyndon was going to, or at least have more success with a jab and some movement. He didn't get a chance. You know what I mean? Anthony closed the distance very, very quickly. He got inside. And when he got inside, he didn't muck about. And the punch variation was superb, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he went to the body, he went to the head, uppercuts, everything was going in there. And they were hard shots, quick as well. And I just think that totally threw Lyndon off. Should he have been expecting it a bit more? Probably. But it's like you said, man, he couldn't stop the rain.
What about Tunde, man? We've got to give him his flowers, right?
Yeah. Tunde, Jimmy Cook, and Anthony Yard, they got their tactics spot on. And I'd actually messaged Tunde, actually, because as I said, me and Tunde, we got on quite well. And I congratulated him after the fight. And listen, man, he answered a lot of the critics. He said he doesn't have a game plan. He don't know what he's doing. You know what I mean? He was quite magnanimous as well in victory. So Tunde, you know what I mean? He's smiling right now. You know what I mean? He's smiling. I'm sure that he's very happy. And so he should be, man, because it was an excellent performance. And it's one that you're thinking that the winner between Callum Smith and Callum Johnson and Joe Smith from America, New York, they're scheduled to fight Yard. And I'm already looking forward to that immensely. Whoever wins, especially if Callum Johnson wins.
Yeah,
but whoever wins
Callum
that
Johnson,
fight,
sure.
them versus Yard is going to be a great fight for the WBO title, man. So yeah, bring it on.
What next for Lyndon Arthur? Because as Stefan says here, he's left Frank Warren now. The deal that they had was that if Lyndon Arthur was to win, he would have stayed on with Frank Warren. But if he lost, then like he was to leave. And I think that Frank Warren came out and said that, you know, that because he got a bit of criticism when that came out because they basically said, oh, you're kind of leaving him in the dark. But Lyndon Arthur and his team requested to leave should he lost that fight. So where does Lyndon Arthur go from here, man? Because like you said, let's be real, he's not the most charismatic person outside of the ring. Inside the ring, he's not putting major bums on seats. So where does he go? Like, do you think he'll sign with Boxer, like Stefan is saying here? Maybe Mick Hennessy, Eddie Hearn. Where does he go? Because I'm
sure he'll still have a career. I think we got to not. I'm not saying you are, but the boxing public of not going to fall into this trap of every time a guy loses a fight, you know what I mean, your career's washed, you're done, and all that stuff. You know, and it was a loss. It was a pretty bad loss. Let's be honest. I'm sure Lyndon woke up the next day and he would have been devastated at that loss. But listen, man, he can rebuild. You know what I mean? He's got plenty of time, not plenty of time, but he's got a decent amount of time in which to rebuild. And I think a new promoter will probably suit him because he had been making noises that he wasn't happy with the way he was treated by Frank Warren in the lead up to this fight, having to come to London or one or two other things. He feels, and I think he's quite justified in saying it, that Warren clearly preferred Yard to win the fight. And I
You
think
see how happy you were. You see Warren after the fight with Yard.
yeah,
You see
he
him.
wasn't as happy as that when Lyndon beat Yard last year, was he? I can tell you that. So yeah, I mean, listen, it's probably mutually beneficial because you know, I mean, he can go off now and rebuild his career, which he needs to do. They'll have to sit down and work out what's the best way back for him. And yeah, a new promotional outfit will probably suit that, won't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think Boxer works for Lyndon Arthur for sure. If he could link up with Ben and those guys over there on Sky Sports as well, that's a good shout.
Yeah,
Shout out
listen, you know, listen, as much as people always get slated for losing, everyone likes a comeback story. And like I said, he's got more than enough time to engineer his way back, get back in the gym soon, because, you know, you want Christmas off, spend time with his family, all the rest of that stuff. Rebuild, man, rebuild. He's still a very good fighter. He's got that one loss, but listen, a loss is not the end of the world, not by any means. And if he gets back in the gym, stays in shape, he's got a very good trainer in Pat Barrett. If you can get the right promotional outfit, get him the right type of fights, the right type of opponents in order for him to rebuild properly, then I'm sure he'll be back making noise soon.
very good division there, light heavyweight. Plenty of good fights to be made. Let me give a shout out to our guy from Philadelphia in the building, Jeff TV in the house. Go and check out his YouTube channel, his shows. We was on there last week. That was where we had it with Shane. And he says here, I lost $50 to Shane because of Lyndon Arthur. So now he's on my hit list. So you're not the only one. Do you know what I mean? He got Jeff as well, man. Big up to
listen, man, Yard was very, very impressive. I mean, I thought Yard would win, but I thought it would be a close fight, a hard-fought fight. But it was anything but, if we're being honest, wasn't it? I mean, Yard just went in there, man, and just ruthlessly beat him up and got rid of him. You know what I mean? Some people were saying that the fight was stopped prematurely, but if you look at the fight, man, you will see that at no time does Lyndon or Pat Barrett, they don't, you know what I mean? They don't gesticulate towards the ref. They don't make no complaints. They knew he was a thoroughly beaten man that night. Yeah. So if you're Pat Barrett, you're probably thinking, you know what, didn't go our way today. Let's take the loss and rebuild, get him, you know what I mean, getting back up to Manchester and, you know what I mean, work on some things for the future, man, because it wasn't like the fight on the undercard where there was a lot of controversy. There was no controversy really about this one. No. It was one guy dominating the other.
Diaz has said here, Yard looked like a monster, but Arthur was extremely disappointing. So yeah, not a lot of ratings for Lyndon Arthur today, man. Not a lot at all. Conrad has said here, am I crazy for wanting to see Yard versus Canelo after this performance? So what do you think, Laurie? Canelo's your boy. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, listen, Yard doesn't have anything that Canelo would want, does he? That's the way Canelo... When Canelo's assessing an opponent, apart from assessing how beatable he's going to be, what if you're Canelo, you're going to be looking at what does the other guy bring to the table in terms of a title and stuff like that. Obviously, Yard doesn't have a world title. But in the future, because who knows whether Canelo will go back down to super middleweight. He keeps jumping up in weights. We saw what happened to the great Roy Jones when he started going up to heavyweight and then coming back down to super middleweight. You saw what that did to him. And I'm pretty sure that Canelo is a student of the game. I'm sure he would have noticed that as well. They do actually have a common opponent, don't they? You know what I mean? If you remember when Yard went over to Russia to fight Kovalev, he nearly got Kovalev out of there. And lo and behold, 3 months later, Kovalev's back in the ring with Canelo, who knocked him out. So who knows, man? If Yard can secure one of the light heavyweight belts, you never know. He'll probably start calling Canelo out, and we see what happens from there.
Well, this is the next question from Big Lou. Shout out to Big Lou. He said here, Yard looks sharp. I'm still not sure if he'll win a world title at light heavyweight. What do you guys think? Well, we do know that Callum Johnson and Joe Smith Jr. are fighting for, there's WBO light heavyweight titles on the line there, and Yard is in line to fight the winner. I'd give Yard a chance against them too. So yeah, I guess he could get a title.
I would give Yard a very good chance against.
Yeah, I'll give him a chance. Yeah.
Against either of them, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's, you know what I mean, stonewall. It's not 100% he would win. But listen, man, he's got talent to burn. He's one of the most naturally gifted fighters in that division. And if he's in the right frame of mind and they do the work, put the work in, I think him against Callum Johnson or Joe, well, I think that's 50-50 fight, man. What do you think?
I think it is. I think it is, man.
Yeah.
They're winnable fights for Yard, both of them.
Yeah.
Because
He has, yeah,
both of those two guys like to
he
slug
does.
it out as
He
well.
does.
And there's not many that I would give that what I would say, yeah, they could beat Yard if it's just a straight shootout. There's not many. I don't think so anyway.
Especially if, and this is no disrespect intended, especially if Callum Johnson wins, because it's a British fight, British showdown, take place over here. You wouldn't have to go to America, which might be the case if Joe Smith was the winner. And you know what I mean, he's arguably the bigger man against Callum Johnson. And listen, Callum Johnson's a good fighter and he's got experience over Yard. Although in terms of fights, he's not had that many fights. He's been quite inactive over recent years. So if he was to fight Callum Johnson over here, man, I think, if anything, I'll be leaning towards Yard, to be honest with you. Although I can understand why some people would have Callum Johnson as favourite. And I'm not dissing Callum Johnson when I say that either. I'm just saying that, listen, man, we have in Anthony Yard a prodigious talent. One of the most naturally gifted guys in the division, as I've said, a guy who does put the work in, he lives the life. And I think, man, that a fight like that, world title in this country, wow, that'd be amazing. And I think Anthony's the kind of character that would rise to the occasion. So I think that would be great. If he has to go to America, that's, you know, I mean, that's logistically, that's different. It brings more problems. But that's still a great fight as well. Listen, man, he's competitive with either one. Trust me.
It's a good fight. Yeah. Shout out to my brother Obes in the building, man. And just a quick one to everybody in the chat. Smash that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get ourselves to 1K. Nearly there, man. Asher said here, we're still talking about Yard. He's put here, no, he's talking about Lyndon Arthur. Asher's been going in on Lyndon Arthur on this show. He said here, he's not exciting inside or outside of the ring. Matchroom won't touch him. Hennessy is the level, maybe boxer. That's what he says here about Lyndon Arthur.
Listen, I've sort of
you've got at him before about that.
Yeah, I've said, you know, the is what it is, which he does say way too much. He's not the most fluid of talkers, but he does have a backstory. He does have an interesting backstory, how he's kind of pulled himself up from things that's happened in his personal life. He's got a gregarious trainer in Pat Barrett. They're a good duo, and he can fight, man. And I mean, listen, it's just one loss. And like I said, everyone likes a comeback story. So sometimes it's not just the character, it's the way he's promoted. So sometimes you can get guys, I mean, look, Triple G was never an exciting character. And I could go on. There are many guys who are not that great when they're in front of a camera or don't sound that great. But sometimes
Triple G was exciting in the ring.
Sorry?
He was excited. He was a monster in the ring.
Exciting in the ring, yeah. Even someone like Javante Davis, who's, you know what I mean, box office draw. If you listen to him talk, he's not the most fluid, is he? Not the most articulate.
No.
But he's very well promoted as well by Ellaby and Mayweather and those guys. So sometimes it's about how a guy is promoted, how his profile is raised by his promotional team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, we've even seen it with somebody like Terence Crawford, who fantastically talented, not a great talker, previously wasn't a great, he's getting better. But Bob Arum and those guys dropped the ball with him. You know what I mean? They could have done so much more. And they didn't. You know what I mean? So it's one of them, man.
Yeah.
You get the right guys behind him, pushing him, you know what I mean? Getting him the right interviews, getting him out there, getting him at certain events. You know what I mean? Doing certain things behind the scenes. It is possible to raise a fighter's profile.
Yeah. Just going through some more comments here about the fight. Let me talk about the chief support here. I want to like quickly talk about that as well. Got a lot of comments here. Quickly get through these, Laurie, and then we'll talk about the chief support because we need to talk about that while we're here. Mohammed says here, I don't know much about Joe Smith Jr. What do you guys think of him? I think he, you know, a good blue collar fighter, man. Very tough. Worked his way up from the ground. You know what I'm saying? I've got a lot of respect for him. He was the last man. He was the last man to fight and beat Bernard Hopkins. Knocked him out the ring. Do you know what I mean? Likeable character, Joe Smith Jr.
Yeah, he is, man. Like you said, he's blue collar. He was working on a construction site up until about a year and a half ago when he turned full-time pro. Big right hand, man. Good puncher. Lots of heart. Comes to fight. Aggressive. Listen, man, he's a good fighter. Another one, he's kind of flown under the radar a little bit. I thought his promotional status would be a bit more. He hasn't really, you know what I mean? A lot of you kind of have to be a sort of hardcore fan to know about him, don't you? Many of the casuals won't know who he is. So again, you know what I mean? He's not been promoted very well. So, you know what I mean? Maybe he needs to put in that call to Eddie Hearn, man. Or Leonard Ellaby, or, you know what I mean, one of those guys, you know what I mean, getting promoted.
Dia says here, I would give Yard a shot against Bivol. He won't show Bivol the same respect Richards did in the early rounds. Mohammed says Johnson knocked down Beterbiev. Ash said here, Bivol would school Yard. He beat Joe Smith 11 rounds to 1 in first gear. They are similar style and fighters. Be interesting to hear what Shane thinks about that fight.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was looking to see if he was him who wrote that. You know what I mean? That sounds like a Shaneism, that one. You know what I mean? But listen, man, you know what I think about Bivol. Isn't he supposed to be fighting soon?
Yeah, we spoke about it. He's fighting the kid from the guy from Russia, isn't he?
Listen,
what about Zerdo? Francisco says here, Zerdo seems like he's about to get a title shot. Him and Yard.
That's another one who Bivol ducked as well.
Yeah.
He ducked Zerdo relentlessly. You know what I mean? Zerdo was calling him out. Zerdo's unbeaten, good fighter, man. Apparently, bested Canelo in sparring a couple of times, I'm hearing. Saw an interview in the week from somebody who said that they were there, witnessed the sparring, and said, listen, man, I could tell you hands down, Zerdo got the better of Canelo in sparring on more than one occasion. And Zerdo's called out Canelo before, and needless to say, he didn't get no traction with it. So, yeah, man, I like Zerdo. He's unbeaten. He's kind of flown under the radar a little bit, but he's a very good fighter.
Stefan says here, Bivol schools Yard. Come on now, people are getting carried away. Listen, Laurie, I have to be honest. I don't think the Bivol fight's a good fight for Yard. I don't. I kind of agree with Stefan's saying it. I just think that he's so well schooled. I think that he would give Yard problems, man. I think he would.
I could see why you would say that, man. But I mean, you know, Yard does have the equalizer. I think if he can show that same type of aggression that he showed against Lyndon. I mean, listen, your previous contributor said it there. When he fought Craig Richards, man, did you look at him and think he was anything special? Really, come on now. You know what I mean?
He was out of the ring for a long time before.
Yeah, but whose fault is that? I mean, you don't want to fight no one. You know what I mean? He's kind of got half a foot in the game, half a foot out of it. You know what I mean?
See, Ash is telling you to relax here, man. He's saying Bivol is one of the best pure boxers. Don't get it twisted. Yard just beat someone for the Commonwealth title. Relax.
Relax. Listen,
I don't think he's talking to you. I think he's just saying.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the question was put to me and I answered it. I think Anthony Yard is competitive against any of those top guys. I really do. And now he's got such a great win against Lyndon Arthur. A lot of people are there sort of borderline sort of dissing it by saying it was because Lyndon was so poor. Nah, I mean, because people weren't saying that before the fight. Listen, how many of these people were saying before the fight, oh, come on, man, you're just going to go in there and just clean his clock? Nobody said that, did they? Nobody said that at all. Everyone was saying 50-50 fight. A lot of people were edging towards Yard, but a lot of people picking Lyndon to win, saying that he would do it more convincingly this time. Now he's got his right hand back and it's working and he's going to adopt better tactics. It didn't happen, did it? You imagine if Bivol had done that to imagine if that was Bivol that had done that to Lyndon. What would the likes of Ash and Shane and them lot be saying then? So, you know what I mean? It is what it is, man. Yard has proved to me the other day that he's up there in terms of the better light heavyweights in the world. And on any given day, I'm saying he's very competitive against anyone.
Anyone? Anyone?
Yeah, I do believe so. Yeah. I mean, look what happened when he fought Kovalev. He was that close from knocking Kovalev out in Russia as well. So you have to give him his flowers for that too. Okay.
Listen, man, I've got a few Bivol guys in here. Listen, I think Bivol's not a good fight for Yard, personally. But Conrad...
I can think of better fights.
Yeah. Listen, but let's talk about the chief support, man. I want to talk about Mohammed forgot, is it Shiraz? Sorry, I apologize. Shiraz against Bradley Ski. Me and you were having a little...
We should be talking about the ref, who was an absolute disgrace in that fight, man. I mean, listen, sorry to preempt anything, but I've got to say this. If you're a referee and you don't disqualify a fighter for that, then what is your purpose of being in the ring. The purpose of a referee, right, we all know, is to protect the fighters. That is your first and foremost primary consideration, to protect the fighters. Because let's face it, he's not scoring the fight.
We just apologize quickly. I said Mohammed Shiraz. I meant Hamza Shiraz. I think I was just looking at Mohammed's comment here. Sorry, Hamza Shiraz. But carry on, Laurie.
Yeah, so what I was saying is I was disgusted with the referee. I really was. And I said that to you immediately after the fight when we spoke. His primary concern is to protect the fighters. He's not scoring the fight. He's there. He's that third man to make sure the rules are observed and protect the fighters. My man, Bradley Skeet, gets hit behind the head. He goes down, right? Hamza Shiraz takes the opportunity. And listen, he took the opportunity, man, to land 3 shots. I think one of them might have slightly missed. Full-blooded shots while the guy was on the floor. The referee saw that and he takes a point. Come on, bro. So by taking a point, you've acknowledged that he's done it. So it's not like you can say, like sometimes in football, referees will say, well, I didn't see it, so I couldn't give the call. You saw it, bro. You saw the man stand over a guy that was on the floor, hit him 3 times with full-blooded shots. Now, forget disqualification for 1 minute. What would have happened, Daryl, had there been some kind of injury to Bradley Skeet after the fight? There would have been lawsuits going around, wouldn't there? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bradley Skeet's team and Dominic Ingo and those guys, they would have been looking to sue. How we could not, I mean, if you're not going to fry him out for something as egregious as that, then what are you going to fry him out for? Flying leg kick? What? I thought it was terrible.
Do you know what, Laurie? Bradley Skeet posted a video. Shiraz has done this before.
Yeah, so I understand.
He's
but
done this
even
before.
That notwithstanding, Daryl, we've seen a video circulating of him doing it before, which goes to show that, you know what I mean, he's a man that will take advantage of people on the floor like that, clearly, because he's done it before. But I was just disgusted with the referee, man, because I'm thinking, and this is like a very experienced referee, a guy who's refereed many fights. And you allow that to happen on your watch. I mean, listen, man, at the end of the day, I was disgusted. Many people were. And that fight, man, the only thing that can happen there is that fight should be declared a no contest. I don't know what's taking the British Boxing Board of control so long.
Well, I do. I just don't have a lot of faith in them, to be fair. Frank Warren's fighter, do you know what I mean? It's you know how it goes with the British Board. They very rarely overturn decisions they do, from what I'm aware of. Not many. They don't do many. But what I would say is I thought that Hamza Shiraz's statement was very classy. He acknowledged what he did. He did offer an immediate rematch. He stopped short of saying that the first fight should go down as a no contest, however. But he did say the noble thing to do. He acknowledged what he did. And he said the noble thing to do will be to give Bradley Skeet a rematch. So listen, very good statement, very classy statement from Hamza Shiraz. However, I still think that they need to look at that first fight and rule that a no contest, in my honest opinion. But fair play to him for what he said and for offering the immediate rematch. So I'm guessing
credit to him for that. But Daryl, he's done it before, so you know.
Yeah, he has done it before.
Some people who saw the video, as we saw, that went round in a week where he'd done it before, you might be looking at that statement with a little side eye, you know what I mean? But anyway, that notwithstanding, yeah, it was credit to him for, you know what I mean, agreeing to have the rematch. And credit to him for putting out a statement saying sorry and all the rest of it. But that's one thing. But I'm saying my immediate thoughts was the referee got that completely wrong. And then when I'm hearing also that he was basically saying to, apparently he said to Bradley Skeet, listen, if you don't fight on, I'm going to have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
to me, that was poor. And it makes you wonder that, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, it's a referee, it's a Frank Warren promotion. You start thinking all these conspiracy theories, man, because you think the guy's experienced, he should know better than that, you know what I mean? Not once, not twice, 3 times. Come on, bro. Like, that fight should have been declared off straight away.
Yeah.
Go and look back at Terry Norris, who he got disqualified twice in his career for similar things. And rightfully so. And I'm a big Terry Norris fan, or was. You know what I mean?
Stefan says here, as good as Skeet boxed, Shiraz showed him way too much respect. I think he stops him legitimately the second time round. I thought that, yeah, he's saying Shiraz would stop Skeet legitimately the next time around. I thought that Shiraz, for me, I haven't watched him many times, but I saw him obviously on that night. I wasn't impressed, man. I mean, he was poor at cutting off the ring. He was poor at letting his hands go. He was just marching forward, high guard, no head movement, not really trying to break Bradley Skeet down. And listen, Skeet was stunting on my man. He was stunting on him. He was taunting him, and that's why I think he hit him that many times and he got him on the floor, because it was out of frustration that Bradley Skeet was outboxing him. You could make a case for him winning practically nearly every round up until that stoppage. I think I gave Shiraz 1 or 2 maybe, but Skeet was doing brilliantly in that fight, and I think
I have to say, because when
he was coming on though, he was coming on. Shiraz was.
Yeah, listen, when we spoke before this fight, I was saying, listen, man, this is going to be an easy win for Shiraz. I didn't see Bradley Skeet having that much success. And yeah, he did box really well. I would say, though, that like you, I thought that Shiraz was coming on. He's getting a bit closer, but it did take him a long time to get there. You know what I mean? I was a bit disappointed with Shiraz, to be honest. Like you said, he didn't know how to cut down the ring, it seems. He was very one-dimensional, threw the same shots all the time. It was quite easy for Bradley Skeet to read, which obviously contributed to the way he was getting outboxed. I'd love to know how that judges had the fight, you know what I mean, at the time of the stoppage.
I tweeted that. I said, because I haven't seen that. I ain't seen those cards.
Yeah, I'm a bit suspicious as to why you know what I mean? There's just things that happened that night, man, that made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'd love to know how the judges were scoring that fight. I mean, clearly Skeet was winning. Some of the rounds, especially some of the latter rounds, were close, though, because there were rounds there where Shiraz was landing some pretty decent shots, and he was the aggressor. I think the only slight issue I would have had with Skeet is that in some of the rounds, he was backing off so much that I wasn't sure whether I could actually give him the round, if you see what I mean. It was more of an amateur style up against a professional style. Whenever you get that conflict, you're always going to get, it's aesthetics, isn't it? It's how people like to see things. People will look at that and say, well, actually, yeah, he's flicking out a few jabs and moving, but he wasn't really landing any decent punches himself. And so that's when things become subjective. So I still want to know what the judges scored that fight up until the stoppage. I think if we saw that, we'd probably be surprised, wouldn't we?
I reckon they ain't released that for a reason, man. Because I tweeted that this week. I did say, how come we ain't seen what the scorecards were for shit? I know it don't matter, but it would have been good to see how the judges were looking at it, because to me, I thought Bradley Skeet was doing his thing. There is
Skeet up, but couple of rounds, 2-3 rounds. I don't get where people say he won every single round, because some of the rounds were close.
I think you got to factor in.
I definitely had Skeet up, and I definitely agree with you about the punches thrown after Skeet was on the floor was born of frustration.
I think that, like, the fact you factor in the fact that a lot of people thought Skeet was going to get knocked out. So the fact that he was making it competitive and looking good, even if he might not have won the round, people are like, boy, man, I'm gonna have to give him that round. I thought he did better than he thought. Yeah. So they give him the round based on that. That does happen a lot in boxing too.
He definitely did better than I thought, because despite all his pre-match bravado, pre-fight bravado, I thought that it was going to be one of those things that as soon as Shiraz gets to him, man, it's going to be over. And I thought it'd be over by about the halfway mark. Yeah. So to see him late in the fight, still doing his thing, still outboxing him, I was very pleasantly surprised. So credit to Bradley Skeet for that. And Dominic Ingle, who come up with a game plan. But that ending, man, was very... I mean, and the thing is, I don't know how you felt, but once he'd gone down like that and been hit them 3 times, you could see the difference in Skeet, man. Once he got back up, he was not the same. No. So that clearly had an outcome on the fight, 100%. Because prior to then, he'd been boxing brilliantly, really. And then
I did get a little bit of sign he was fading. I did see a little bit that he was fading under pressure a little bit.
When I say brilliant in the overall scheme of things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The fact that he was ahead on the cards, no one would have, well, I certainly didn't. Outside of a very few cabal of people around Bradley Skeet, no one really saw that coming. But it's clear that when he went down and he was hit like that, when he got up, he was not the same. So that definitely contributed to what happened in the end. And I think that the British Boxing Board of Control. I don't know why they're deliberating so long. To me, it's an easy thing to do.
Well, listen,
That fight should have been declared a no contest and a rematch ordered. Simple as that. And like I said, the referee, he had a nightmare, man. Seriously, because if that's not a disqualification, I don't know what is, though, really. Like I said, it was a flying leg kick, maybe, you know what I mean? But seriously, what? I've seen guys thrown out of fights for way less than that. So the referee, I don't know what he was doing that day, man.
Boxing First Vlog, BFV, my man, all the way from Philadelphia in the house. He's putting what's happening, fellas. Good to have you here, BFV. Obes has said here, no respect, no contest, and fuck Shiraz and his rematch. So Obes is not playing about. He's saying, Edgy bra. Yeah, listen, man. Obes is saying here, Ingle should have hopped in the ring and body slammed. That's how bad it was. Conrad is saying, I don't want this stuff in boxing. Ian is saying, personally, for me, the fight should have been a disqualification win for Skeet. That was dangerous from Shiraz. Pure frustration, but wrong from him. So I think most people are on the same page.
Like I said, supposing it emerged a couple of days after that Bradley Skeet was in hospital with a bleed on the brain. Can you imagine the fallout from that fight? And the promoters and the referees and everybody else, they would have been in court, I'm sure. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, that was ridiculous. And the referee, like I said, needs to have a long, hard look at himself, man. Apparently, like I said, he had said to Skeet, if you don't get up, man, I'm going to have to stop the fight. So there was a few people, myself included, was saying, why didn't Skeet just stay down and, you know what I mean, do what many fighters have done in that same position and said, nah, you know what I mean? I'm not going to carry on. And then he would have incurred the wrath from some people who said, oh, you stayed down when you should have carried on fighting. But he said, even if he'd have done that, he would have got the knockout would have been called. Yeah. So yeah, I felt sorry for Bradley Skeet, man. That was wrong. That was wrong.
Stefan says here, incompetent guys like Steve Gray, IGL, etc., have been doing this stuff for years. Ian John Lewis, I mean, sorry. Oh, he was tough.
Oh, God, Ian John.
Was anyone really surprised? The British Boxing Board of Control needs a major overhaul, but nothing will happen. Yeah, they need to upgrade, man, but I can't see it.
There's been a school of thought for some time, and I'm just saying that that's what's out there. I'm not saying I'm saying it. So there's a school of thought that said that the British Boxing Board of Control are in the control, for want of a better word, of people like Frank Warren and people like that. So those people who think that what happened on Saturday will give them further ammunition, won't it? Where are the scorecards?
Everyone's saying Shiraz was 9-up. Probably was, man. There's a reason why they didn't
that disqualification call. It wasn't difficult, was it? Nah. Listen, had the referee have disqualified Shiraz, could he really have complained about that? I'm sure he would have thrown his hands up at the time and said, "No, I didn't mean it." But when you watch the video back and in the cold light of day, no one could have complained about that at all because it would have been the right thing to do. You know what I mean? So how the referee could get that so badly wrong is actually quite worrying for me. It's quite troubling because if you're not going to do your job in that moment, then are you really qualified to be a referee in the first place? Because like I said, your primary concern as a ref is to protect the welfare of the fighters. That's why you will see referees, they'll stop a fight. And a lot of people say, oh, that was stopped too early. And the referee will say, I was doing my job. I'm there to protect the fighters and stuff like that. That's what they always say. So where was that level of protection in this fight?
WM in the house. He's put here, my favorite boxing duo. I hope you're well. Very good, man. Good to have you here, WM. Let's move on from the, Bradley Skeet, Hamza Shiraz issue here. I'm hoping that we do get some sort of clarification from the British Boxing Board of Control soon.
Why are they taking so long?
Yeah, why is it? I don't know. All we've had from them so far is that they're looking into it. That's all we've been told.
That fight was a couple of days short of being a week away.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they went to work on Monday, these guys. That should have been high up on their agenda. How long would it take to have watched that fight, have a conversation, come up with a decision? You see, when the fact that they're taking so long just muddies the waters even further, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The fact that they've taken so long to get to where we are now and still nothing tells me that we're about to get.
Yeah,
let's.
It's not a good look, man.
I don't want to say anything that will get your channel in trouble, man.
Listen, we're near almost at that 1K mark. Shout out to everybody, man. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. We've got quite a few people in here. So big up to everyone that's here right now. Listen, there were some other fights over the weekend, and we still got to preview this weekend's fights as well. So I want to get through them. Stefan he's popping out. Good to have you here, Stefan. Let's talk about Haney and Diaz, and let's also talk about Davis and Cruz. Let's get rid of those two before we move on. Your thoughts on Haney and Diaz? Unanimous decision win for Haney.
Yeah, listen, man, I watched the fight. I stayed up late, as I always do. I really enjoyed it. I scored the fight. I think I had it something like 8-4, probably 9-3, but I was generous. I gave Diaz one of the rounds that I was deliberating on just to try and even things up a bit. You shouldn't really do that, actually, but that's what I did. I knew it would be a very well-contested fight, and credit to Devin Haney, man. He boxed beautifully at times against a very good opponent who would come to win. There was a lot on the line for both of them. And I thought it was a really good, intriguing fight. I had Devin up comfortably. I couldn't understand some people were saying it was close. I didn't see that at all. I thought Devin put on a really good performance. He did get caught a couple of times. And there are some people suggesting that he's still slightly vulnerable. I don't really see it that way. I see a young guy out there, man, going out there doing his thing, boxing people's heads off, calling out other fighters who don't want to fight him. I'm very impressed with Devin Haney, man. Very impressed.
Ash seems to agree with you. He said I scored it for Haney 9-3. To beat a two-weight champion that easily at 23 years old is extremely impressive. Jojo Diaz is what, 29? So yeah, I am in the camp where I feel like Devin Haney, out of all of the lightweights, I think I like him the best.
Yeah.
Because he's willing to challenge everybody and he don't care where it is. I really get the feeling from him that he will fight anyone. But for me, there is a little fragility. There is a little fragility to him. I could see a little to him. Because a lot of people are saying if Jojo Diaz stepped up the gas, obviously there was a reason why he didn't. But if he did, they're saying he could have got to Haney more. Because when he did, he was getting to Haney a little bit.
Listen, if he could have done it, he would have done it. All this stuff about if, come on, man. Haney won the rounds. Some of the rounds he was boxing Jojo's head off. And that's not an easy thing to do. Because Jojo Diaz is a quality performer. In fact, I think I watched in the lead up to this fight, me being me, I was watching some old footage of some of his amateur fights. Jojo Diaz, he represented America in the Olympics. He's got a couple of wins in the amateurs over Oscar Valdez and people like that. So listen, man, this guy was a very decent test. It's a perfect test for a guy like Devin Haney, and he came through it, man. I mean, listen, he got caught a couple of times, but he was never wobbled or seriously hurt, was he? So,
No.
you know, people saying he's vulnerable, I think they're being harsh. Just like they were when he fought Linares. I mean, when Linares dropped Loma, I didn't hear people saying, oh, Loma's vulnerable, did they? He dropped Loma. Yeah? When Linares dropped Campbell, I didn't hear people saying, oh, Luke Campbell's vulnerable. And he was washing Linares on the scorecards up until that point. So, yeah, man, I like Devin Haney. And like you hinted on there earlier, I like his attitude. It's noticeable when he was asked about the Kambosos fight, he said he's prepared to go to Australia. Do you think Tank's going to want to go to Australia? Do you think...
Not with Lenadella being Floyd.
Do you think that Teofimo Lopez would have wanted to go to Australia? Do you think that Ryan Garcia is going to want to go to Australia? No. So out of all those guys, man, Devin Haney to me is the most impressive. Is he the best at lightweight? That's still got to be proven. You can't really sort of look at Kambosos and say, yeah, you know, I mean, that's an easy fight, because no way. Kambosos is right up there as well. So that would be a great fight, him and Kambosos.
Hopefully it does happen in Australia, man. I think Kambosos has really endeared himself to the boxing public, man. He's been everywhere. That whole fight week, he was everywhere. And it's just great to see. He's a great personality. One of my favorite characters in boxing at the moment, I'd say.
He's definitely one of mine.
Oh, yeah, the bet is, yeah.
No, but I mean, not just because he won that fight and shut Teofimo and his dad all the way up. He done boxing a great favor by doing that. But then, like you said, man, he's very engaging, very articulate, speaks his mind. And even when he speaks, that kind of competitiveness and it comes out, you know what I mean? And I like him, man. I think he's good for the sport. And like I said, man, if he does make that defense in Australia against one of those guys, man, They should not rock up there thinking that that's a foregone conclusion, because if they do, then they're going to end up on the wrong end, a bit like what Teofimo did. So yeah, I'd love to see it.
Harvey says here, did you see Kambosos' welcome back to Australia? It was great to see. Everyone at the airport was there to support him. I didn't see it, actually.
Yeah, I saw it on YouTube. Now, can you imagine his first fight defending those belts? That is going to be a very hostile and intimidating atmosphere for a young guy like Devin Haney to walk into. So for him to even suggest that he's willing to go out there and fight, that alone, credit to Devin Haney for that, man, because that is, that's going to take some major cojones to do that. And I'll be honest with you, man, I can't see Tank Davis doing that. Not the way they promote him. They're not going to want to go to Australia. No way.
Let's talk about.
They're going to want to go to Australia.
Let's talk about Tank Davis and Isaac Cruz. That was on the Sunday. Tank Davis winning, what was it, majority unanimous decision, a closely competitive unanimous decision. Not getting the knockout, so his knockout streak ends. However, he's still got the win. He's still undefeated. Tank Davis, this was, for me, definitely his most difficult fight so far. Maybe not on paper, but, Isaac Cruz proved to be a very stiff challenge. And also, Tank Davis appeared to fight the second half of the fight with just one hand. So your thoughts on Tank Davis's performance and his future after this? Because he's not going to fight Isaac Cruz again. He already said that. So what do you think?
You know what? I thought that was an excellent fight. I wasn't expecting it to play out the way it did. The way I saw Isaac Cruz make that fast start, I was like, wow, this guy's coming here to win. And he won the first round, clearly. And I think he took Tank by surprise a little bit, you know what I mean? And he was very competitive all the way through. But I did think he did enough to win the fight. And I have to give Tank credit because it was clear that after a certain point in that fight, you could see he was only using one hand. So for him to get the win over a guy like that, a very aggressive, determined, hard-punching opponent, and beat him, and let's face it, he did win. There's some people out there saying he lost. He didn't lose that fight. He won the fight. But it was very well contested. So you have to give him props for that, man. You know what I mean? Because it couldn't have been easy, you know what I mean, staving off a very aggressive guy like that with just one hand effectively. So I thought he won the fight. I thought he looked good. Little disappointing with some of the statements coming out of his camp afterwards. Usual sort of Mayweather Ellaby stuff about, you know what I mean, they want to keep things in-house and, you know what I mean, we got pay-per-view numbers and, you know what I mean, all that type of stuff. I would have preferred to hear them say, yeah, we're prepared to go to Australia and fight Kambosos. But instead of that, all we got was the usual stuff and him calling man easy work, which seemed a bit incongruous after you've just gone life and death with Cruz. You're saying all the lightweights are easy work. Well, not so sure about that, Tank. You know what I mean? Because Isaac Cruz was supposed to be easy work and it was anything but. But yeah, I mean, listen, I really rate Tank. And I understand why he's such a big box office draw, because he's exciting. And what did impress me about Tank in that fight as well is that, as I've said before on this show, when you're looking at top-level fighters, he made adjustments. Yeah? So some of the things he was doing weren't quite working. There were times when he boxed on the back foot. There were times when he went forward. There were times when he was using a lot of jabs, turning Cruz, giving him angles, you know what I mean? Deploying different styles within the same fight. Those types of things are very impressive because you get some guys who are very one-dimensional. So, for example, a couple of weeks ago when Teofimo fought Kambosos, he had one game plan, which was to go out there and try and land the right hand and knock Kambosos out. When that didn't work, he had nothing to fall back on. And in the corner, there was absolutely nothing being said to him that was enabling him to turn the fight around. But in Tank's corner, you could hear them saying, yeah, boxing, turning, moving. So when the sort of outright aggression wasn't working, he had a plan B to fall back on. And that was evident. And he got the job done. So, yeah, I was very impressed with him. Like I said, the only thing that I do have a problem with Tank is some of the rhetoric that comes out of his camp in the way they're trying to promote him. But hey.
Asher said here, I'm becoming disillusioned in Tank's career. How can you expect fans to be invested when you always know he won't be fighting the best or even trying to? Here's a question. Do you think that, with Tank and, Ellaby and Mayweather, Do you think it's more them in terms of Mayweather and LB that are not allowing him to fight those top guys, or do you think Tank's got to be part of the blame as well? Do you think Tank wants it, or do you think that he's kind of like with Mayweather and LB where he can just make money to not fight those guys?
Yeah, I think he may have fallen into that sort of comfort zone. I don't really like to call it a comfort zone because at the end of the day, it's still boxing and it's still taking punches. But
blatantly ducked Lomachenko.
Yeah, blatantly, yeah. And I don't think they want it with Devin either. I genuinely don't think they want it with Devin, man. I think they see Devin as somebody that will give them major problems. Devin's got size and length over him. Devin's a young guy, he's very ambitious. And you know what I mean? I don't think they really want that fight. I think if they can go out there and cherry pick opponents, they're quite willing to do that. You know what I mean? So
the word here is disillusioned. I mean, how long can you put up with it? Like, he's a huge star. On Leonard Ellaby and Floyd, they've got it made because Tank is a huge star. So to them, they're doing it right. Do you know what I mean? They're not putting him in with the most dangerous guys, and he's still a huge star in America. So it's like, we're as far away as ever then from them risking Tank against Haney or anyone else. But then we do have to say that with Ryan Garcia, I think that Tank was all in on that. But it was Ryan Garcia that pulled out of it. So are we being a bit harsh?
Yeah. But if you contrast the way that he was very willing to entertain the Ryan Garcia fight, but every time he's asked about Haney, they start telling you stuff about he only sold X amount of tickets and he's not a draw. You know what I mean? Well, as soon as I hear fighters come with that, man, it really turns me off. Yeah. Really does. You know what I mean? How many tickets did Isaac Cruz sell before this fight? No one had ever heard of it. I guarantee you that most people, right, in the lead up to this fight, I had to go on YouTube because I know I did. You know what I mean? To find out about who Isaac Cruz was. He only got the fight because Rolly Romero got embroiled in some stuff outside of boxing, so they had to pull him out. And we all know that the Rolly Romero fight, come on, man, that was going to be a walkover for Tank.
Yeah.
For me, that fight was all about the press conferences. They knew enough. Listen, Rolly fights out of the Mayweather gym. They got a relationship with him. They know exactly how good or bad he is. They know that he would have been food for Tank.
Yeah.
But the way that was looking to play out was they were going to have these like press conferences where they're going back and forth, engineer this beef, you know what I mean? And it ends up with Tank getting a highlight reel knockout. Yeah. Yet another one, you know what I mean? Uppercut, boom, he's out, cold, bang, that's it. Tank's the most exciting fighter in the world. That was rhetoric. But it was funny because a lot of people said that Isaac Cruz was a cherry pick, but it was a cherry pick that nearly went wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Diaz has said here, Tank is one of my favorite fighters, but I hate the Mayweather promotional nonsense that comes with him. Yeah, it's just really draining. Man.
Floyd always does this as well. Whenever Tank's
just talking about Canelo the whole time through.
Well, and I've got a theory about that. I said to you about, listen, some of that stuff that he was saying about Canelo is true because I've said the same things on this program for weeks. So I do agree with a lot. Having said
no one
that,
asked you, Floyd. No one asked.
Yeah, but having said that, this was about Tank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's about promoting Tank's fight, and you're there interjecting yourself, taking over the press conference, saying how easy you beat Canelo. Yes, you did, Floyd, but guess what? That was years ago, and this is Tank's career. You know what I mean? For you to be focusing on that, I just thought it was a deliberate attempt to steal some of the limelight. You know what I mean? And then, you know what I mean? You're talking about Canelo. That I just didn't think it was appropriate for him to be talking. If you should have been saying that after Canelo fought. Why are you using Tank's press conference to air out your grievances about Canelo? I just wasn't convinced it was coming from the right place. Much of what he said was true, don't get me wrong. But was it coming from the right place? You know what I mean? Was it coming from a position of, yeah, I'm speaking about these things for the good of boxing? Or was it because A, you're worried that Canelo's about to supersede you in terms of being the face of boxing, and B, you just want to talk about yourself and steal the limelight? And I seriously suspect it was the latter. It's all about Mayweather, man. You know what I mean? That's how he's always been.
Big up Big T in the building, man. I believe if it's the Big T I'm thinking of, then that's Dean Whitaker's father on here. So big up Big T here in the building. He's put Mayweather is following the Mayweather trail of making money with as little risk as possible. So yeah, I mean, it's
Big up,
looking
big
like.
team, man. When's the announcement, bro?
Hopefully,
Maybe
get one
Daryl's
soon.
get him on the show and get into, because we can't wait, man. Who's he going to sign with and when, and you know what I mean? What's going to happen? I'm excited. Congratulations as well on the medal, man. He was a real outstanding performer. So big up for that.
For real. Yeah, I mean, last word on Tank, and like many people, I think he's very exciting. I am actually a fan of Tank as well, but just what comes with him is just, yeah, man, it's just. I
Sometimes
can't
when
deal with
Tank
Ellaby,
is sitting
man.
there, when Tank is sitting there and he's alongside Mayweather and Ellaby, I sometimes feel a little bit sorry for him because you think there's a fighter there that we still don't really know him, do we? Every time the guy tries to talk, these two start talking about pay-per-view numbers and tickets sold and he's a star and all that. And then you get Floyd, like I said before, I made smart investments and bro, give Tank the mic. We know all about you, Floyd. You were a great fighter, one of the all-time greats. We get it. That was your time. This is Tank's time. Let us listen to what this young man has to say for himself. He's not the most articulate anyway.
No,
He's not been given a chance by these lot. It's just like suffocating the dude. You know what I mean? Let him speak. Does he want these fights or not? Because I still don't know with Tank. You know what I mean? Because he seems to me the kind of guy that would fight anyone. He just looks like that kind of demeanor, didn't he? Yeah. He wouldn't run from anybody. You've seen guys like that out on the road, man. You see him, innit? You know what he's about, bro. So I'm not going to say for 1 minute he's scared to fight Devin Haney, Cambosos, Loma, but it's the way he's been managed, and it just leaves a bad taste in the mouth, bro. So I do agree with Big T in many respects. He's been micromanaged, if anything. I wouldn't say mismanaged, because they're obviously doing well with what they're doing in terms of selling out arenas and winning fights, and he's become a star. But you know what I'm saying? They're micromanaging him too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let the guy breathe, man. Let him talk. Let him express himself. And put him in fights where we can genuinely say, listen, man, there's a real risk of him losing his fight. Because up until now, man, you know what I mean? I know Isaac Cruz gave him a good fight, but if you look at the list of opponents, you know what I mean? You look at them and think straight away, say, yeah, knockout. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And that can't be good.
Yeah. Only the Pedraza fight was the one where it was like, ooh, going in. And that was early in Tank's career. Big T has said here, thank you. With regards to Whitaker, man, you'll hear an announcement real soon.
Yeah, man, I can't wait, man. He was definitely one of the stars. And I'm not just saying it's now Big T. I was saying it even before. He was definitely one of the stars of the Olympics. The way he fought, he's got real character, real personality, which sometimes is missing in boxing. And yeah, man, I can't wait. I mean, I know Fraser Clark, he made moves, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on. But yeah, man, let's get Ben out there, man. You know what I mean? He can do big things as well. I wonder if he'll go to, what do you think he'll end up as a light heavyweight as well? Or do you think he'll go in at super middle?
Be interesting. He's got the frame to carry light heavyweight.
Yeah, he's got the frame, man. Definitely. And he's got the skills. So yeah, man, it'll be an exciting journey, I'm sure.
Yeah. Just a lot of people here talking about Tank in the comments. Shout out to everybody, man. Can't read them all. Let's, before we sign out for today, Laurie, man, I want to get your thoughts on this weekend's matchups, particularly Conor Benn against Chris Algieri and Lomachenko against Richard COMMEY. Now, I'll be first straight off the bat with Lomachenko and COMMEY. I don't really, I'll just see a beat. I'm sorry, man, but I'll be real. I'll just see a Loma special. I'll see. Let me know if you guys disagree with me in the comments, but I just see Loma really having his way with Richard COMMEY, man. And that's not to disrespect him or anything.
Sounds like you are to me.
I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want to disrespect him, but it's more like Loma for me seems like a man on a mission at the moment. What he did to Nakatani, man, I'm just like, yo, I think that he might do the same to COMMEY.
Yeah, Daryl, as we always say, styles make fights. And one thing with COMMEY, man, I took the trouble to do my research this week. I was looking at some of his wins. He had a good win in his last fight, actually. Jackson Martinez, a guy who a lot of people say should have beat Rolly Romero, beat him easy, just didn't get the decision. Where have we heard that before? But anyway, going back to COMMEY, that was his last fight. And he knocked Jackson Martinez out cold with a right hand. And he's got length on Loma, innit? He's got size and length on Loma.
So did Nakatani, man.
Yeah, but Nakatani's not known as a puncher. COMMEY is. And we saw that Loma was a bit gun shy against Tio in those first 5-6 rounds, wasn't it? So Commey's talking a good one. He said he's prepared diligently and he can't wait. And I think he's trained by Andre Rosier, isn't he?
Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, Rosier is a good coach, man. Definitely.
So what do you reckon then? How do you see this going?
I've still got to go with Loma in it, man. The guy's a class operator, man. He had that fight against Tio where he didn't look very good. He said he had a shoulder injury. A lot of people at the time, myself included, I'm not, cap. I'm not going to pretend I weren't one of them. I gave him a lot of stick, saying that, he was offering up too many excuses for the loss. And I still think, listen, man, he said he had a bad shoulder, but he did throw his right hand, didn't he? It's not like he didn't throw it. He weren't like Tank, where he didn't throw it at all for 5-6 rounds. Loma in the last, he just didn't get started. I don't know whether he was a bit gun shy or he's a bit apprehensive of Tio's power. Maybe he felt Tio's power early and decided he was going to, sort of, I don't know, box his way into the fight rather than let it hang out early. And he got beaten, and deservedly so. And that took a lot of shine away from him. But what that also did was to re-energize Loma, innit? Because he came back against Nakatani.
Listen, man, that fight against Nakatani, Laurie, for me, I was like, whoa, man. Because I thought Nakatani might give him a bit of problems.
Some people were saying Nakatani might win.
Yeah, and look what he did to him.
Yeah, he destroyed him.
I think Loma's he's not ramping, man. I just look at him like he's not playing about.
Well, this is great, though. No, but you know what? If that's the case, then this is great to see, because it's showing the other guys that, listen, man, I'm not finished yet. I'm there. You're talking about 4 kings and all that. You got to come through me. So
I think he feels a bit disrespected.
I think he does. I think he does. And I think sometimes, you know what they say, when a lion's sleeping, don't wake him up. And I think, if they've awoken a slumber in him and he's saying, right, it's almost like it's kind of re-energized his career, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
I think so.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to see this.
Prediction before I get I've got a question for you here in the comments. So just give me your prediction first and I'll go to the question.
I've got to go with Loma, man. Got to go with Loma. I mean, listen, I'd like to see COMMEY do well, because, it's always good to see a guy like that. Seems a very nice, humble guy, been a champion before, paid his dues, fought everyone, willing to take on everyone. It's nice to see him do well, but you can't look past Loma, man. And if he's in any type of form that he was last time out, I think it could be a stoppage. So, yeah, I'm going for by 8, 9, 10, man. Andre Rosier might have to throw the towel in or something like that. You know what I mean? Because I think COMMEY could be on the wrong end of some vicious Loma combinations. You know what he's like, you know what I mean? When he's in the mood. I was saying to you the other day, one thing I like about Loma is that when he hits people and he hurts them and then they try and hold it, the way he sort of throws them off and lands and he snaps their heads. He's so accurate with his punching, man.
So accurate, man. And
then the footwork, man. And then he's quite a spiteful dude,
Yeah, your head snaps back. What he did to Nakatani,
bro.
Yeah.
That guy, you know what I mean? He's all smiling and he's very polite and that. But don't get it twisted, man. This guy, man, you know what I mean? He's a bit of a beast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that, like you said, Joe, when he started getting that stick for the Teofimo fight and all them young guys were running around calling themselves 4 kings and takeover and this and that, I think he thought to himself, nah, man, I'm coming back with a vengeance. Yeah. And the way he beat up on poor Nakatani, I was like,
yeah, man.
And I think COMMEY might be in for some of that as well. But I expect COMMEY to be wary that he's going to be facing the best Loma. Andre Rosier is a good trainer, man. I've actually been out in New York before and watched him up close working with fighters, and he impressed me. He knows what he's talking about. He's done well with Derevchenko, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Yeah, I thought Derevchenko was unlucky not to get the decision.
Yeah, he fought this weekend, yeah. I've got Loma round 7. That's my official prediction. But yeah, let me go to this question here. It's from Mohammed. He's put, what's your thoughts on Fraser Clark, Laurie?
I like Fraser Clark, man. I think he can do well. The only thing I would say that would look fairly obvious is I don't know how much of a puncher he's going to be at heavyweight. But because he didn't seem to be a big puncher in the amateurs, he's more sort of a work rate and boxing and stuff like that. But listen, man, once he starts to plant his feet in the heavyweights and he gets the right opponents, and listen, he's a welcome addition, man. And he seems like he's got a good personality. He's engaging. He can talk. So I think he's going to do well. I think you just need to promote him right, get him the right type of opponents. Who knows? You in a year or so's time, you might see a heavyweight showdown between him and someone like Fabio Wardley or something like that. And
I like Fraser Clark, man. He's 30 years old, got a very good personality. We met him at the Boxer after.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
Nice guy, very nice guy, man. Wish him all the best. Do you know what I mean?
I think with a guy like that, it's how you promote him and the type of fighters you give him. You don't want to put him in with killers too early. But, you know, if they get him the right opponents and stuff like that, I think he'll do well for sure.
Yeah. Francisco says here, but Haney's camp said that Loma ducked him.
I think Loma did duck him because don't forget he accepted that franchise belt rather than fight Haney, which is why Teofimo got the fight. Because obviously, I think anyway that Loma looked at Haney and he looked at Teofimo, and I think he thought, yeah, out of the two, Teofimo was more beatable. And of course, that went wrong for him. Just like Teo, he looked at Kambosos and thought, yeah, man, easy work. And that went wrong for him. Yep. So that's what Haney's got to be careful of. You're not looking at Kambosos and thinking, yeah, well, I can't get the Tank fight. But Kambosos, yeah, man, I'll go over to Australia and relieve him of the titles. And then all of a sudden you're finding out it's not as easy as you thought. But I think Devin Haney's got his head screwed on a bit more than some of them other guys, to be honest.
That's why it's probably my favourite out of those guys.
Yeah.
Apart from Loma. Well, yeah, I'd say, yeah. Those four young guys, I'd say Haney I probably like the best.
But what Loma versus any of those young guys, what are you saying?
Boy.
Frank don't want it with Loma. We know that.
Boy.
Frank don't want it with Loma. But Haney has said he'd fight Loma. So is Shakur Stevenson.
Styles make fights. I mean, it'll be out of those four, I think that let's start with Ryan Garcia. I think he picks him apart.
Forget about him. He don't. He would never beat Loma anyway.
I think he beats Kambosos. I think that style would kind of suit him. I think that the Gervonta Davis, he's got to be wary in that fight. I think he would be. I think he'd outbox Davis until like it gets. I'd be worried about him in the later rounds against Davis. And I think Haney, they're close fights, man.
Yeah, they are very competitive.
Hard for me to just say a winner. Just
Shame
like that.
It's unlikely we're going to see any of them, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing about boxing, man. All those fights you just named there, we're probably not going to see any of.
Who's Loma's toughest out of those? Throw Teofimo Lopez out. He's fought him already. He's moving up. Those guys right now, Kambosos, Haney, Davis, Ryan, all of those guys. Who's the toughest for Loma out of those? You say Haney?
Yeah, I think Haney, but maybe Gervonta because of the Gervonta's got the power to really cause him problems. But I could see Loma outboxing Tank though. You know what I mean? Yeah. You would find it harder to outbox Haney because of the because of Haney's boxing ability, his youth, his length, and the fact that Haney seems to be getting better in every fight, man. You know what I mean? He does. So yeah, they're all excellent fights. Kambosos, he's a ball of energy. You know what I mean? He'd be difficult.
Ash says Loma does horrible things to Kambosos.
Easy to say that now, but he never done it against Teo, did he?
Yeah. Comments here. Conrad says,
especially in Australia, that is not an easy task, bro. Would Loma want to go to Australia?
I think he'd go, man. I think he'd go.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think he would, yeah. I think him and Haney would go. The rest of them, no.
Tank definitely ain't going.
Tank ain't going nowhere, man. He wouldn't leave. Yeah, nah.
Ryan Garcia, forget about him. Teo, he's not going to want to go. Well, he said he don't want a rematch because according to them, they won the fight. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's all about Ben and Loma, man, and Tank.
Anyway, Conor Benn and Chris Algieri also fighting this weekend. For me, I did a video on it. I put a video out saying that despite Eddie Hearn and Matchroom saying that, you know, they've got to do their job and build this fight up. But for me, this is a good fight for Conor Benn. He's been active this year. I don't see Chris Algieri giving him too much issues. He's been pretty inactive over the last couple of years. I know he fought earlier on this year, but before that, he's been pretty inactive. I see a good win for Conor Benn. Got a name on his record. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent learning fight for Conor Benn, man. You know what I mean? Sean Porter's ducked him. He's retired. Sean Porter ducked Conor Benn, and now they've had to find a Chris Algieri as an opponent. No, on a serious note, yeah, man, this makes a lot of sense. Algieri is a former world-class fighter, former title holder at 140. He's not been active, like you said. I think this is going to come down to how much ambition Algieri's really got left, isn't it? Because he's sort of forging a career as a commentator now, and he's doing a lot of that. He's not fought for a long time, and when he has fought, he's not looked that impressive. He never was a big puncher, even when he was winning titles and stuff like that. So, but what he did have was plenty of fitness, plenty of heart, and he's quite clever, good, decent mover, good boxer. But I think this is the type of fight that Conor Benn needs in his career, another name on his record, and I think he'll get the win, man. I think he will pressure Algieri, and he'll make those hard punches. And, you know what I mean? Conor Benn is another one, man. A bit like Loma. I'm not comparing him to Loma.
I was going to say, but I was like, whoa, man.
No, when I, allow me, let me land, man. Let me land. What I was going to say is, he's got spite on his punches, Conor Benn, and he does punch in combination. And I think once he narrows the gap, might take him a few rounds to do that, because I sort of envisage Algieri getting on his bike from round one. But once Conor manages to close the gap and start landing, he's one of those guys, man, that he does put a lot of oomph on his punches. You know what I mean? He wants to try and get you out of there. And indeed, he said that in the lead up to this fight. He said that once I start landing, man, I'm going to really bring it to him. And I think he will. Because I don't think Algieri will hit hard enough to keep him off.
No, he's not a natural welterweight.
No.
To be fair, Conor Benn's not a big welterweight either. You get the feeling he could probably trim down, maybe, but he's very strong. And I think
physically strong.
I think
and
the
he's
Liverpool
coming
crowd
into
will
his
pump
man
him up.
strength as well now, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he'll be pumped as well. They're fighting in Liverpool, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll just see. I'll just feel
He's
like
becoming a bit of a crowd favourite, Conor Benn, as well. And I think he'll feed off the energy of the crowd. And you know what? I think he might even get Algieri out of there, you know?
Yeah, Diaz has said it here. He thinks he'll stop him in 4-6.
No, I was going to say 9-10. I think he might get Algieri out of there, bro.
Yeah.
Algieri's, I don't think he's been stopped before, but he has hit the
No, Spence destroyed him.
Yeah, apart from Spence. I mean, latterly, yeah. He did get knocked down a bunch of times against Pacquiao and kept getting up, so he's got heart. But I just think that Conor will work him over late, man. I'm going for a late stoppage. Okay. But I do think it's a good opponent, because I do think Algieri will win a few rounds. Because like I said, he's got excellent movement. He does have good boxing skills, and he's experienced. So that will parlay into him winning some rounds, but he's not going to be able to keep Conor Benn off him for the full distance. I'm
not mad at the fight at all. I think it's a good fight for him. His matchmaking has been very good, as Ash says here as well. I think that it was because Matchroom, before this fight was officially announced, I think they come out and they were like, yo, this is going to be the real boy, 50-50. And then when we heard Algieri, we're like, bro, man, Algieri's all right, but 50-50? Nah, not for, like, we get it. You got to push the fight. But for me, it's a good learning fight for him. He's been active. His previous record has been good, and there's no rush. He's still young. Yeah. So, yeah, I agree. Like the way they're pushing him.
It's excellent matchmaking by his promoter, because if you notice, all of those guys he's been fighting, the Formellas, the Granados, people like that, and Algieri's the latest one, Sammy Vargas, people like that. What's the common denominator against all of those guys? Is that none of them are punchers. You know what I mean? So when they're not punchers like that, then it's a perfect way to develop your fighter, because these guys are bringing experience and they're bringing names, their reputations. So if you can get one over on them, it's going to enhance your career, especially if you can do it in style. And the fact that they're not punchers means that there's less risk on Conor. If he does get hit with a decent shot, he's unlikely to get put away, isn't he? Because these guys are not big punchers. So the matchmaking so far in his career is looking really good. Of course, he's definitely swerving that fight with
Avanesian.
Yeah, definitely. Conor's too macho to admit it, but they clearly don't want no smoke with Avanesian, which would be a great fight.
Mohamed Zishan is saying, who's next for Conor if he wins? He's saying Victor Ortiz or that guy that Virgil Ortiz fought in his last fight.
Well, it definitely won't be Virgil Ortiz. I know that, because they're not going to go from fighting the likes of Chris Algieri to fighting Virgil Ortiz.
Well, he's saying Victor Ortiz or Mean Machine.
Yeah, Mean Machine.
I don't know. I don't even know about Mean Machine. I think that's a dangerous fight.
It is. Listen, man, the way boxing is, I'm sure they can dig up. So they'll probably call out Broner, because Broner said this week that he's looking to get back into the mix, isn't he? So I could see a fight, them calling out Broner. You know what I mean?
He's been twerking for Eddie Hearn on Twitter, man. He's been saying, yeah, I might have to call Eddie. And I could see that happening, you know?
Yeah.
You've said it, yeah.
Yeah, Broner makes a lot of sense if you're someone like Conor Benn. Another guy in name. Broner's not a big puncher at welterweight. He's been beaten a few times, but he does have the name, you see, and the experience. So you put him on a card with Conor Benn. Press conferences are going to be electric. You know what I mean? It's going to, you know what I mean?
Imagine bringing Broner to the UK.
Hyped for that fight. But at the end of the day, you'll be dealing with a guy that's pretty much washed up. Perfect.
Imagine Broner in the UK.
Yeah, exactly.
I think people would come out, I think.
Yeah, they would. They would. They would.
Ash says here, Mean Machine smokes Conor. Let's not go there. Yeah, I'm not going there either. I don't like that fight.
You say that, but
not me. I don't like it.
Hang on. Who's Mean Machine smoked recently? Who's he smoked recently? Could it be that he's
Virgil Ortiz? But he had him badly wobbled in that fight as well.
He did, but did he win?
He didn't win, but Conor Benn ain't no Virgil Ortiz yet.
But he did get pretty badly beaten up in the end, didn't he? And when you're an older fighter and you're taking these shellackings, he took one off Crawford, he took one off Virgil Ortiz. It definitely does something to you, man. Not just from a confidence perspective either. You're leaving bits of yourself in that ring every time you fight. You know what I mean? So, you know, if he was to fight Green Machine, I would give him a good chance in that fight. But I think the Broner fight would be something that he would welcome.
Yeah. Last one before we go, Laurie. Quickly. You touched on it very earlier in the podcast, but just your quick thoughts on Jake Paul and Tommy Fury now being off. Will Tommy Fury, what I said on my video this week, I just want you to answer this question. What I said was, do you think Tommy Fury will get that fight next year? And is this the most lucrative fight for Tommy out there? What level can he get to in boxing? Is this it for him in terms of the big fight? Will he get anything bigger than this?
I'm not sure if he will, because I must admit, I'm not impressed by Tommy Fury at all. I mean, I know it's early in his career and he's a novice pro, but I've not seen any. You know, sometimes when you see like a guy's only had half a dozen fights, but you're looking at him and you're projecting forward and you think, yeah, man, this guy looks like he could go a long way. I must admit, I've never looked at Tommy Fury in that light. And some of the opponents he's fought have been dreadful. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? I've never really looked at, even in his last fight when he fought that guy that was about half his size and weight, he was struggling at times, man. He looked all over the place. And I must admit, I mean, I know he's come out and he's given this long-winded statement about his illness and producing, you know what I mean, what looks to be medical evidence. I can't help but think, man, that, you know what I mean? I don't know why. It's not because I don't know Tommy Fury like that. I just can't help but think that maybe there's more to it. Don't you think that?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, I saw in a press conference where the dad, this one really did make me laugh. They're accusing Jake Paul of, you know what I mean, steroids and not wanting to take drugs tests. It's the same guy, Tyson Fury's failed a drugs test, been banned. So has Fury. So what's all this sort of sudden, you know what I mean, stance on drugs all of a sudden? And then you said before, Tommy Fury, what's the dad's name? John Fury. You said before, we'll go over there, we'll fight you with one arm, with one leg. We don't get yeah. They were making all that noise. Now he's got an injury, they're pulling out. I mean, what is that, bro? Like, that means that obviously the Jake Paul fight is not maybe as easy as you were trying to make out. And let's be honest, Daryl, if he loses to Jake Paul, his career's done it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
He's done. And I think that may have contributed to why they didn't really want to fight. They probably
they're saying that they really wanted next year. They're saying
So?
they really want it next year. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, they can say that, but you know what I mean? Next year's a long time. Anything can happen between now and then. Jake Paul might lose.
yeah, he might have missed out on his chance, you know. He
Yeah,
might have
that's
missed
what
out
I'm
on it.
saying. And I'm just not really convinced about the pullout, man. I don't know. What do you think? I just saw that and I thought it was too easy, wasn't it? It's too easy, man. 2 weeks before the fight,
Cold feet.
you know what I mean? It just had that ring to it, bro. Like 1 minute you complain about steroid, which did kind of make me wonder. I'm like, why are you complaining about steroids for? Like, you said you'd beat him, you'd kill him, you'd do this and that. There's been rumors for a while now about Jake Paul being on steroids. He probably is, to be honest.
Yeah.
But then you've got this sudden big thing about steroids, but yet still, your son, John Fury, has failed a drugs test, done time for taking peds, as your nephew, Yuri. So what's all this big thing now about you don't want to fight him because he's not taking... And then a week or so after that, your son pulls out. Nah.
DS has said here, could we see Arthur versus Tommy Fury? Lyndon Arthur takes him to school and back, man. It would be a horrible fight for Fury. That would never happen.
Listen, man, Tommy Fury is not going anywhere as a top pro in this game. I'll put my house on that.
Yeah.
He's not. It's just not, man. You know what I mean? That's the truth. And listen, I'm not trying to diss him by saying that. That's just my honest assessment. I don't see him going anywhere in this sport, bro. I mean, look at, you got guys like Mr. T we just spoke to. His son's about to embark on a career. You know what I mean? Come on, man. You know what I mean? Look at the killers you got in the light heavyweight division at the moment in this country. It's probably our strongest weight right now.
Yeah.
Do you think Tommy Fury's going to do anything with... Come on, man. It's a joke.
That's why I'm saying this was it.
Look at my boy Dan Aziz. What would Dan Aziz do to Tommy Fury?
Yeah, he'd eat him alive.
Disembowel him, bro. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah.
And then you got this fight with Jake Paul, which makes a lot of sense, really, because let's face it, you're on a similar trajectory, aren't you? A similar trajectory. And then all of a sudden, you're telling you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Your dad's up there embarrassing himself, saying all sorts of ridiculous things for a 60-year-old man.
Did you like that when he went up?
2 weeks later, you go and pull out.
Did you like that when he went up to the TV and he was like, he was going to punch the TV, John Fury?
It's just comical, bro.
I thought that was hilarious, man.
You know what I mean? Like I said, but some people fall for that hype, innit? Big John Fury, please.
Listen, man, it was only right we ended up on...
we've ended with a bit of comedy, innit? We've ended on a very light note. But, I mean, listen, man, there's some good fights on this weekend again. I'll be staying up late, be watching that. So, yeah. Real fighters. Real fighters.
Got a good weekend of boxing coming up, man. Like I said, the DAZN show also got Katie Taylor on the bill. If she wins that, she'll be fighting. It's looking like her and Serrano will be fighting next year if both of them come through their next fights. So that'll be something to look forward to. Lomachenko, Richard COMMEY, Sky Sports this weekend as well. So yeah, some more boxing to look forward to this weekend, man. Shout out to everybody that's been on the show. A bit longer this weekend, but very good show as usual. Laurie, close it out, man.
Yeah, man. Once again, thanks for the opportunity to come on here and engage in one of my passions, which is boxing. Loving it. Yeah, man. Looking forward to the fights at the weekend. Can't wait to see Loma again, see if he can continue on that spiteful streak that he's on. And yeah, man, let's get it.
Let's get it, man. Shout out to everybody, man. Thank you all for being here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And
where are you in terms of subs now, anyway? What's the score on that?
We're at 952.
Just another 48, man. Come on. Come on,
slowly
people.
Getting
Anyone
there, man.
Watching this, man, send this, circulate it to your friends and your peer group and people you know like boxing. I'm pretty sure that once they watch the show, you know what I mean, they won't be disappointed, man. You know what I mean? So let's get it out there, man. We want to get those 1,000 before Christmas. So we got a couple of weeks. Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Let's do it, man. Shout out to everybody, man. Big you guys up. And we'll catch you on the next one, man.
Big up, Big T, man. Nice to have him in the place. And I'd love to get him on the show one time, him and his son, man, and chop it up about where, you know, what they're going to do with their careers. We want that big announcement. We want to do it live and direct on the Boxing Lowdown. That's what we want.
I'll message him privately after this show. I'll message him privately. I'll ask him. See
Yeah,
what he's
nice
on.
of him to contribute, man. Thank you very much.
Big up to everybody, man. Have a good weekend, and we'll catch you guys later on. Peace.